Opinion: Trump tariffs on India. Cheaper bourbon and a rich world of opportunities. The Trump administration may have slapped tariffs on India as some sort of equalizer for the country's high tariff card for most U.S. products, but it has imposed much higher tariffs against India's competing economies like China, Vietnam, and Indonesia. The Trump tariffs may have left the Indian Sensex 2,227 points down in the Monday mayhem, but the nation has a reason to look up to a world of new opportunities staring at it. Just as India turned the modern world's worst health crisis, COVID-19, into an opportunity to overhaul its health infrastructure, coming up with its own vaccine and administering it to 1 billion people twice over, and sending the rest to help about 75 countries, it can invert the breaking trade war on its head. American President Donald Trump has imposed a 26% tariff on Indian exports to the U.S. in addition to a baseline duty of 10% applicable to all countries. The blow will most heavily fall on the electronics, gems, and jewelry industries. But that impact is likely to be limited and short-term because the country's global exports have started expanding fast but have not reached a scale that would hurt. India exports $91 billion in goods to the U.S., which accounts for 18% of its overall exports. There are several ways in which the globally bleak time may usher sunshine for India. Trump may have slapped tariffs on New Delhi as some sort of equalizer for India's high tariff card for most U.S. products, but he has imposed much higher tariffs against India's competing economies like China, Vietnam, and Indonesia in the export sector. New U.S. tariffs on China is 54% or Vietnam 46%, Sri Lanka 44% and Bangladesh 37%. The BBC reported the new trade realities also throw up opportunities for India. Its new tariff differential with Asian peers may potentially lead to some export rerouting. Indian exporters stand to benefit. If the government and the private sector play well, India can wean away a major chunk of garment and footwear business from China and Bangladesh, for instance. India was also the first mover as the only country that began negotiations with the US for a bilateral trade agreement (BTA). The US had sent a team only to India for negotiations on tariffs after Trump took office in January. The BTA is supposed to be firmed up by autumn, but may happen much sooner now. And while countries like China and Canada reacted angrily with retaliatory tariffs, India, Vietnam, and Taiwan quietly agreed to work on agreements without taking a confrontational route. The trade war, which has broken out and will only escalate, also gives India the reason to expand export markets beyond the US and focus on regions where tariffs remain low, such as Europe, Southeast Asia, and Africa, say economists. Most importantly, it unwittingly gives India a massive impetus to up its game in manufacturing and make it easier for entrepreneurs to do business. Strong domestic manufacturing, continued government hand-holding by introducing strategic policy measures like the Product-Linked Incentive (PLI) scheme, Make in India, and Atmanirbhar Bharat, among others, will support India's growth. Resilience. Hemant Jain, president of the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, has been quoted saying, "The Federation of Indian Export Organizations (FIEO) expects market opportunities to grow by over $50 billion for Indian sellers because of the tariffs." Highlighting differences in current tariffs, the White House states that India charges a 70% duty on imported passenger cars, for instance, whereas the US applies merely 2.5%. Such disparities exist in the trade of apples, alcohol, networking switches, and routers, among others. As an early reconciliatory move, India reduced duty on American bourbon whiskey from 150% to 50% last month. There is no doubt that global trade will go through enormous tumult. But it is a good time to raise a toast to the opportunities that adversity presents, perhaps with a cheaper bottle of JD, mull the next steps, and smartly navigate the waters of the New World Trade Order. Abhijit Majumdar is a senior journalist. Views expressed in the above piece are personal and solely those of the author. They do not necessarily reflect News 18's view.